All right, well, let's jump in, you guys. And like Davey said, please ask questions, right? It's funny, Davey and I were planning this, and he's like, "Do you have like a format? Do you have a?" I'm like, "No, it's an open discussion. Whatever we would need to know." So you're not going to interrupt us, and
Yeah.
the best calls are the ones that answer your questions, right? So let's utilize that time together. So, Davey, I'm going to go ahead and let you start
Yep.
to kick us off.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you for those of you joining and really, really highly encourage the questions here. I think what's interesting is that when Mariah and I were talking about this, even I texted her last night. I was like, "Is there anything else you want me to cover?" And she's like, she responded with something in our text that made me really think about this moment. And she said, you know what these people need to hear." And I think that's really important as we understand hiring anything in your agency. It doesn't matter if it's a carrier, a software automation company, it doesn't matter if it's a VA, an AI tool, a piece of software, a premium finance company. The one thing I see the most with agency owners now is they don't do it with intention. They don't do it with the intent to fix a problem. They do it because they feel like it's a trend in the industry. And you have to be really careful with trends in the industry because as somebody who had nearly an unlimited budget to sell and market to you at the corporate company, we know how to manipulate those buying motives at times based on what's available and things like that. So, for those of you that don't know me, as Mariah said, I've been in the insurance industry about 10 years, most of it with a big corporate multi-billion dollar premium finance company where I was the national sales leader of about 90 sales reps. And guess what all those 90 sales reps did? They called on you guys. Okay. So I know everything there is to know about how those people get motivated, how they show up, what they're looking for in the anatomy of your agencies and things like that. And then after that, I worked for 2 years and helped some business partners grow a virtual assistant firm from a side hustle into a fully functioning business. I've made a lot of money off of insurance agents. I've had a lot of success with insurance agents. And Mariah said, what's probably the best to set the tone for today, which is I've made a lot of money off you. I'm not going to sell you anything today. I'm going to try to answer your questions and tell you what is and isn't capable. And I think that's the most important. And what I'd say is most agencies don't have a growth problem or a sales problem or a tech problem or a marketing problem. They don't have a problem with leads. They don't have a problem with staff. They have a problem with leadership and systems. And I know that Mariah and I have dealt with this for years, getting into business with good agents and getting into business with agents that we cringe when we say yes to the contract. Okay. It's important. We all, even as somebody who has spent years and years and years around you guys, I still feel a responsibility to do what's right. And that's what I think all of your approaches still have to be at the end of the day. If you go out and you try to just sell policies as opposed to protect people, it's going to catch up to you every time. Every time you try to take the shortcuts, it will catch up to you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the generic topic of AI, the generic topic of virtual assistants. What you're going to find me talking a lot about too is you and your agency and your ability to implement anything. Okay. AI is not your fix. VAs aren't your fix, and neither is software. Bad implementation of all of those three is creating chaos in the industry. Chaos, right? I can only imagine. I do it at a high strategy level with my businesses that I coach and specifically insurance agencies. I can't imagine the amount of unscrambling technologically that Mariah and her team go through sometimes with these agencies, right? I see it all the time,
Yeah.
right?
Really bloated tech stacks is usually the result of that chaos and lack of planning in the front end, where they find a mistake or a problem and they add a piece of technology every time and they end up with 20, 25 different tools. Um, and their
Ugh.
team is they're ready to go back to the Stone Ages. Like we're gonna write everything on paper as much as people hate that. But the chaos that it causes with the messy or complete lack of implementation, everyone wants to regress. This is too confusing. We are obviously in the weeds where Davies at the high end, so we've seen it
Right.
from both perspectives, really.
I let me ask a question that's going to be pretty revealing, and it's just one simple number. On average, How many hours a week does everyone in the chat work? I would love to see that, first of all, on average. And be honest. If it's hot, no one's going to come and audit you.
Are we
Okay.
gonna do it too? We're gonna do it too,
Yeah.
right? We're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
do it too.
Yeah. 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 I'm about 60, to be honest with you. Because I do a lot of stuff at night too. I am not full 9 to 5. Okay. 50, 60. Chris Gibson worked 5,000 hours. Chris is,
Chris, I'm so glad you're
Chris
here.
has got a lot of AI tools. That's great. Um, how many of those hours needed you to do the job, which meant it needed the business owner's decision making or technical skill, and do a percentage there.
Mm,
I'm going to be really honest.
I'm doing it too.
20% of what I did last week needed who I am in my strategist and coaching brain. Okay. That's where you're at. All of you. That's where you're at. AIs and VAs in some combination can give you your time, strategy, and sanity back if you do it right, and will cost you all of those things if you do it wrong. If you don't do it intentionally, if you don't try. Okay. There's already a question in the chat, which I love that. So we'll pivot to that. Carrie asked higher up. She said, when you were VAing, which I love that terminology. Let's use that more. When you were VAing, what was the most common objection to hiring a VA? And I would say there isn't one. There isn't one. Um, Sometimes it was cultural. There was a cultural thing. Hey, I don't like that accent. I don't trust people from that country. I don't want our customers to think less than us if they find out we're using VAs, etc. We can't even get over the hurdle whatsoever of hiring a foreign employee. No problem whatsoever with the Amazon packages and the Temu packages showing up at their doorstep, which also were produced by sometimes the same people, but we weren't going to hire them to work in our insurance agency, not in my backyard. Okay, that was cultural was number one. Two was price. I think people have this misnomer because they've heard it from their friends that VAs cost $4 an hour, and they don't assume that there is other operational costs whatsoever. Right? I think cost was one. Um, the other most common one simply was I don't know what I'm going to give them to do. I don't know that I can. I just want to ease my toes into the water. I want to do part time. Meanwhile, the chat looks like it looks. 80% of the stuff I did last week didn't require me, but you know what? I don't know if I can find work for them. Right? That was the most common objection. Here's what I tell you. I'm going to pop a bubble here, just like that. Okay. These people working in other countries are who you are. They're the same age, socioeconomic class, intelligence level, professionalism, and ability to do the job in your agency. They are college graduates. They are brothers and sisters. They are moms and dads. They are aunts and uncles. They are people of middle class origin and capability. And the only thing that changes that is some borders and some oceans and some time zones. And so if a 28-year-old college graduate with some business experience knocked on the door of your insurance agency tomorrow and said, hey, can I just do 40 hours worth of work for you? I don't care what you have me do. I'll do all of your social media. I'll use AI tools. I'll sell for you. I'll handle customer service calls. I will reconcile reporting for you. I'm 28 years old. I went to college. I know how to use all of the technology, frankly, better than you do. Could you not find 40 hours worth of work for them? You could, because you can put your
Okay.
foot on them in the office. The agencies that don't get VAs right don't get being a boss right either. They're not good at leadership. Show me your retention numbers of the last 3 positions you hired for. I'll tell you if you're ready for a VA. You're not ready for a VA. In fact, you know what? I'm going to throw the penalty flag right now. Stop saying VA. I when I was at my past firm, we tried this marketing thing about virtual employees. Guess what? Stop saying V anything. These are just people, humans that have probably frankly a better handle on technology than any of us do because they use it to survive and translate things so that they can work for you.
Well, a much better way to explain what you're hiring or who you're hiring is just a remote employee.
That's
That's
it.
all it is. My entire team, you guys, except for one, there's 15 of us here. I have one person in office. That's it. It's my assistant. All of my employees are remote. We just hired our first overseas remote employee, but they're
Mhm.
just another remote employee. So if you can learn management well in person and learn to translate that into a virtual environment, then you can be very successful with it. But they are an employee. The virtual, like the company you hire through isn't responsible for making them successful in your business. You are. That's the one thing that I see the most is when we've had clients who hired virtual, employees, they've hired remote, and they think that that person is going to come out of the box knowing how to do everything.
Mhm.
Right. I say out of the box because that's the only thing I can think of as far as the, visual out of the box. They plug them in, boom, they know everything about your business. That's impossible because everybody runs their businesses differently. There's a lot of similarities, but it is not possible. You are responsible for training them, and the agencies who do the best already have experience with remote employees and are really good leaders and have really good clarity and processes so that their employee can be successful. They set them up for success being remote.
Yeah, Mariah and I talk a lot about talent inside the entire insurance industry quite a bit. Her and I both are always looking for strategic people and smart people and good people, not only to hire for ourselves, but give to our vendor partners and agencies and stuff like that. One of the other biggest misnomers that an agency prioritizes is experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These people are sometimes at 1/3 of the labor cost. If they are good at their job and they work for you and they cost 1/3 of what you normally pay, would you ever let them go? Thus, when an agency, one of the virtual assistant firms, markets to you that we have VAs with experience, honestly, as an agency owner, I ask you, what happened to the last employee that was really good that left you? If you were really good at being a boss and you had a great organization and clear compensation and a career track, that person didn't leave you. So that VA who no longer works for that agency or has worked for two or three other agencies, what is it in the pattern that's not working? Beware of someone who tells you, to Mariah's point, oh, we have trained VAs. Trained on what?
Yeah.
We'll play a game. We'll get people in the chat or customers of Accelerated Automation or customers of mine. I'll tell you what, we'll do it like those wife swap or spouse swap shows. We'll swap
Oh
one
no.
CSR from one agency into the other for a day and see if they can get anything done.
Oh yeah. No way.
Because, as you know well, Mariah, not only is the technology complicated, but you could find, I mean, how many clients that you have Mariah, have similar tech stacks, but don't have any similar workflows, right?
Mhm.
That's consistent, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to help them create, right? Is the similarity of things that do work. I mentioned at the very beginning, for those of you who were at the first minute, I just joined at the first minute because I came from a webinar with with NetView, and we were doing live building a workflow for renewal. And the person that started talking to me, he said, "Well, we only have 3 steps in our process: review, contact, and renewed." And I said, "Okay, interesting." So we walked through for 30 minutes the process. You know how many steps in his process we ended with? 8. And he said, I missed all that. I didn't realize that there was 8 steps. I thought there was 3. So that clarity, right? Again, so you could have walked into his agency and saw they have 3 steps to the renewal process. Their team is doing 8 steps. And then now you put a VA in the, or, a remote employee in the middle of that. What are they expected to do? They're going to miss
Hmm.
things because those 8 steps actually exist, and you told them there was 3.
Yeah. I love it when I get on a call with somebody and they're, whether it was a past life when I was placing VAs or now when I just coach independent agents and it's like, all right, you're hiring a VA. What's the job description look like? There isn't a job description.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who's the VA going to report to? Well, Kristen. Kristen's going to be the VA manager. Okay. What's Kristen's job description? Kristen is the VP of personal lines. She has her own commercial book, and she's also the manager of 3 or 4 people. And she's going to run the VAs? No.
Not going to
No.
work.
Invite the
You can't have
VA
five
in at the
jobs.
same time you want to invite chaos into your agency.
Mhm.
And by the way, here's the sad truth about really good insurance agents that can sell really well. You can outsell a lot of your problems for a while,
Mhm.
right? If your customer processes are broken and your CRM tool doesn't work or it's sitting on the shelf or you're trying VAs and they keep turning over and you can't find a producer and staffing, oh, issues in America and people you just can't find them anymore. Guess what? I know what your problem is. It's you. And you
It's
got to
true. Being
sometimes.
intentional is something that we forget as business owners. We get so wrapped up in our day to day and the fires that we have. And that time you guys were putting in the chat, how many hours you work, I would go a step further. How much of that is planning time? Like
Mm,
every week, like reflection, reports, planning, looking ahead. One of the things that I have a wonderful business coach now who I highly respect. He's really challenging me. And one of the things he always is pointing at is how much time I'm actually steering the ship. I'm not on the
mhm.
ship. I'm not raising the mast or pulling up the anchor, but I'm steering it. Where are we
Mhm.
going? And where have we been? And where do we need to go next? So that really being intentional. If you look at all that time you're spending working every week, how much of that is planning?
Yeah, most people they don't do it at all.
It's
I
hard.
was
It's
I
hard to
was
do it. It's
it's
hard to get
hard to
out of the
do it.
business.
It's hard.
And
It's hard.
it's
Well, yeah,
hard.
because our agency owners, you do it, I do it. I mean, it's like, hey, it is faster in that moment for me to just do it,
Mhm.
right? But
It feels
it's
that
the
way.
pre-work. It's the
One of my
pre-work that
coaches
you have to
told
do.
me that she calls that work helplessness. And I
Mm,
actually have it written on my wall, work helplessness, because every time I just do something for a team member, I've taken the opportunity away from them to learn how to do it. And to next time, they don't have to ask me. Even when it comes to questions, we're talking about remote employees. I've had remote employees for 7 years now in this
mhm,
company, and I had in my agency. I don't answer questions in a Teams channel, in a Slack. I don't do them in an email. If there's a question and it's something we have to do multiple times, or I expect the question again, I
mhm.
create a video. I create a scribe, an SOP, a guide, whatever that is. We have tools for it. And I put it into our portal. I put it into our AI tools, it's something they can go access later. And so when they ask a question, I create it. If I haven't answered it already, send it to them and then put it in the system. And you know what I start doing? I started doing this 5 years ago. If somebody asks me a question, I say, what resources have you checked? It's my
Mhm.
first answer, because work helplessness just makes you the workhorse of the business. You know everything. Everything is tribal knowledge. You're the most valuable person. I actually just posted, just like on Monday, about my team managing me through us talking about our processes internally. We're always trying
Yeah.
to make more efficiency and make sure that we're helping our customers better. And we were doing that. And my project manager was telling me to stop and breaking back down processes and things I missed. And she's amazing at it. And she only can do that because she's had the space to do it, because I didn't do it for her.
Yeah.
So you've got to also give them the opportunity. And it's the same thing with remote employees. Give them the tools, give them the resources, and let them learn and take this stuff off your plates, you guys. It's it's so freeing. Did you see how many hours I put in mine? What you guys were
I
all
did,
putting,
well,
like 65,000, a million. I put
you know,
45. You know how
yeah.
long that's been going on? Basically 2 months, because I finally
Let go.
let my team do these things. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
me.
Okay,
Oh, wait.
Brian shared a chat. He said, "Hey, if I had an objection to a VA, I would say something along the lines of use remote employees so I can utilize my time doing what you're actually paying me for, and advising, analyzing risk." Yes, that's fantastic, Brian, in the
Yep.
chat. So, just yes or no. Do you have a virtual assistant in your agency? Yes or no? I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that in the chat if you have one or not. No. Yes
All
and
right. We got
no.
like 3 answers. Come on, guys. Jump in there. Let us
Most
know.
im-
Got a
Colby
lot of people that
says
have them.
most people are enamored with remote employees out of the states chasing cheap. Are there? or would you say it always narrows down readiness to be able to manage
Oh,
remotely?
I can kind of speak to that a little
Go
bit
for it.
if
Yeah,
you don't
go
mind,
for it.
and then you
Yeah,
can
go for it.
address it
Go for
too.
it.
So I will say, Colby, I didn't have remote employees overseas as an insurance agent. I just didn't. We have a lot of clients who do. I hadn't gotten there. But I do, like I mentioned, I just hired my first remote employee overseas. And this is why. I was looking for somebody who did have an industry experience. This particular role as a trainer, had training experience, was clear communicator. We really wanted somebody bilingual because we get a lot of requests. And I had tried for 2 years here in the States to find this person where I could actually afford them. That person here in the States, when I was finding that niche person, they were going to cost me over $80,000 a year. Rightly so. They have built their skills up. That is the going rate here in the US. I was able to find this individual overseas who actually speaks 5 languages, has been a remote trainer for 5 years at the same company and been promoted multiple times, and was looking for more opportunity and something new for $38,000 a year. So I'm this cheap labor idea. I'm still paying payroll. It's not like I'm paying her, $50 a month. That's not happening. But I couldn't find the person I needed here at a rate that I could afford for the service that I provide. Our insurance margins are only so large. You only have so much margin to deal with. And what we see in these large agencies, when they hit, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 million in revenue, their margin starts to shrink. Because like Davey said, if you don't deal with the chaos breeds, and they just keep hiring more people to deal with the chaos. And then their margin, they're making less and less profit every year. That's a lot of what we work on solving. But that would be my personal experience with your concern there. Davey, I know you can add more to that.
Yeah, I always go back to stop thinking of this person as a virtual employee and just any remote employee. In Colby's question, are there clear risk trade-offs? Yes, there's a risk to hire a front desk person. There's a risk to hire a producer. Every risk with hiring a new employee is on a scale of how good are they into how good are you?
Mm-hmm.
And that's everything from how good are they technically and how good is your finesse at being a leader? Let's just say the weird things. If you engage more with your employees on a personal level, you don't have to pay them as much. Is that anything anyone has ever not faced as a truth? Right? Why? People will gladly stay in a job for sanity reasons than just chase a number at an insane place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Engage with your employees. So the risk is, are you good at hiring and leading? If you're not, there will be risks to a virtual employee and overseas employee. But let's be honest with you. This service of being a remote employee is so ubiquitous, and so many of these people want to come over here and make good money. The risk of them stealing data or doing nefarious things is not only typically mitigated by the company you hire them through cyber policy, but this person doesn't want to shoot themselves in the foot and get on a blacklist. They're trying to work for 3 agencies at one time sometimes, which is
Yeah.
also another issue, but they don't want to do that. So those risks of cybersecurity are typically protected. And it's just, these are great people that their entire dream in life would be to move to America. And if they can't move to America, they certainly like to work here. So
Yeah.
um,
Very true.
there's a
Um,
constant debate too about hiring a VA direct versus through a firm.
I was just going to ask you
You're going
that.
to go there? Okay.
Yeah, go for it. I was just going to ask.
Well, I was going to say, I'd love to see anybody in the chat that has hired a VA directly, like through a Facebook group or a job posting. If you have, hit yes or type direct. Yeah. This was the one thing we dealt with
It
a
was by
ton.
accident. So
Yeah.
I can just, while we're waiting, you guys please chime in, right? So if you went through a firm or if you went
Firm. Okay.
direct,
Yeah.
and type that in. I hired someone through a firm. The firm went under. I kept the VA after, and live to regret that. So I'm interested to see what you're going to say. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, I think there are spaces that make sense to hire somebody direct, but that's the exception, not the rule.
Mm-hmm.
I think for gig work, project work, immediacy, short-term work, anything like that, where the infrastructure of sitting on demos and all of those things, that there's some small short project type examples, and it's typically a lot of marketing and graphic design and things like that that kind of makes sense to say, hey, I went onto Fiverr and somebody in the Philippines created me a cool logo for 150 bucks. Fine.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone working with any regularity in an agency should be hired through a firm. Unless the exception to that is that person hiring that person direct, I want to make them sign a document if they do it that says, I am realizing that I am starting of my own virtual assistant firm just inside my own agency. Okay? Because you do. You become the HR department, the cyber department, the trainer, and you offer yourself no protection whatsoever. Not only from a cybersecurity standpoint, but how about when the real world, third world problems of that country creep up into the life of your VA and they have to terminate or be terminated for no fault of their own immediately? What are you going to do with their
Yeah.
work? You're going to be back at square one if you haven't done the things that I know Mariah does in terms of having scribe and training documentation and SOPs and things like that, which, by the way, Mariah and I don't want to have to answer how many agencies we do business with that don't have these things in place. We don't want to have to say it. And if
Like
you,
2% have it.
yeah, if
I'm
you
not
don't
joking,
have,
guys. I meet with 5 agencies a day. We have like
easy.
1,000 customers, 5 agencies every single day. I've been doing that for, 7 years.
What's the most,
Don't feel
Mariah?
bad. It's okay. It's normal.
Yeah, yeah. What's the most common reason or thing that somebody says when you say, "Hey, I noticed you don't have job descriptions, SOPs, or anything"? They always have this like defeated, like,
Well, I usually ask if they have them, and usually their answer is they have them. And I say, great, where are they at? Because they are in
I've
their
been
head.
meaning, I've been meaning to,
They're not written down,
I've
right? So
been
that's when
meaning.
I say, do you have a standard operating procedure? And they say, yeah, yeah, of course we do. I'm like, great, tell me about it. Where's that written down? Where can I read it? Well, I just kind of know what we do. So that is what the response I get as to why they haven't done it. It's always time. They don't have the time. They don't know how. Most people get into insurance because we're good at sales, right? We all come
Yeah,
from sales industries. That's how we get recruited. That's what we're good at. We're good at relationships. But operations is a completely different brain, totally
totally.
different documentation. Salespeople are, I'm in the same like squirrel, squirrel, I'm on to the next thing and the next deal and moving around, and operations is a totally different mindset.
Chris has a really good question in the chat that I think
See that too.
segues us nicely into this blended conversation with AI and virtual assistants. So,
Can we address Colby's first? Actually,
yeah,
I
you
wanted
bet.
to, because
Go
his
ahead.
was first in here. He said
Mhm.
that corporate agencies have used VA firms for several decades now, and the trend has dramatically increased with smaller agencies more recent. I would agree with that. And not even just corporate agencies, but large business in general. So I have
Mhm.
a family member at a large carrier, and they've had offshore help, for forever, ever since, I mean, she's been there for 25 years, ever
Mhm.
since I've talked to her. She actually made several trips
Mhm.
over there since she's worked there, I should say. And that's very, very standard. But they also, because of course, after COVID, their in person employees are almost now all remote as well. And they might have some hybrid people, but this person that I know at this carrier, been there 25 years, fully remote, just turned down a very high senior leadership role because it would require in person. So to
Yep.
think that, skill sets are required in person, it's just not true. And it's in all levels of all businesses, big, like Colby pointed out, and small. You can have great talent, especially in our industry in insurance. It's not, there's very rarely an in-person thing anymore. So I just wanted to address that one. And then we can get
That's
into
good.
Chris's question.
I want to add to that, if you don't mind. I just say that it's a lot of the reason why your business exists and why I exist is that the middle and independent, middle and small agents are always at the bottom of the barrel in terms of support.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate agencies have the ability to vet tech partners, implement SOPs, have trainers, have managers, have mentors, and things like that. The bootstrap agency doesn't have uh, the
Money,
discernment, the money, the
resources.
time, the resources. And so what happens? Well, now we're going to spin up these insurance specific virtual assistant firms and cram this down your face. But guess what? The smaller agencies, unless they are intentional about saving labor and technology and whatever, are just going to spin through those cycles of churning. I'm on my third VA. I'm on my third VA company and it doesn't seem to work. Well, they're all happy to have you sign the contract and have you billed for somebody that's cheap in the other country. Who's helping you try to fix your problem? Right? And that's I think that's really important is the smaller agencies have to realize they don't have the same resources as the big boys. They got to go fight for them and make sure they're part of their business plan. Hey, guess what? I know virtual assistants will help me save 60% of my labor costs. Guess what? That's my 2026 goal is to implement VAs and partition all of my licensed work and my non-licensed work separately and be successful. That's what it takes.
So I want to piggyback on that a little bit because my husband just addressed this with me recently. I am by nature a perfectionist, and every time we let someone down, a customer or an employee, it physically bothers me. Like I have a horrible problem with it, which in my own agency resulted in me staying in the day to day of the business way longer than I should have, versus focusing on the processes and the structure. And as a leader, because I justified that because I cared so much about my customers that I felt like I was the only one that could do it the best or the right way. And I wanted them to have the best all the time. And what I did was neglect creating other people who could better serve them. Because as my business grew, as we all know in our time, there are only so many hours in the day. So you're either going to work all the hours and burn out and quit anyways, and then you're not there, or you're going to create people, teach them the skills that you have who can take care of your customers. And that is the skill that you need to develop with your own team. But then you then transfer that to your VA, right? To your remote employees, because you cannot do it all. Please let that sit in your head. If you are doing everything and you're answering billing questions and renewing policies and writing policies and trying to train and market and do accounting and do bookkeeping and do taxes, you cannot do all that. You will stay in the exact same place you are. By handing things off and having some trust, things will get missed. Customers will get mad. Policies will not renew. And that is okay because it's part of the journey. So you can get out of where you are today. And I'm speaking directly from experience, you guys.
Yeah.
And then
Amen.
experience of agencies that, are $10 million in revenue who are still answering $5 billing questions. Some of them are very successful in spite of some of the decisions they make, which is great. But you don't want to, you can't do that forever, right? So clone yourself, copy yourself, trust in people. They don't have to be in the USA. There are amazing people all over the country. And again, we don't have any attachment to a VA company. This is just purely good advice because we've seen
Yeah.
it in hundreds of agencies. Okay, you wanted to address Chris's question about
Yeah.
tech stacks, which kind of probably starts bringing us into that VA side,
Yep.
which we're a little over the halfway marker, or I'm sorry, into
Yep.
the AI side we can start
Yep.
talking about.
Yeah. So Chris asked, "Hey, I've looked at tech stack recommendations. It's easy to go back and feel some responsibility on my side for some of the technology that people have bought over the years. So apologies in advance. But you mentioned earlier that people can end up with so many tools that it leads to chaos. How do you trim it down or evolve when new technology comes in the market? How do you keep your team on board every time you change technology? Let me tell you one of the ways that you don't do it. And Mariah and I joked about this the other day. I hop on quite frequently on demos with my partners. I have a couple insurtech and other professional services companies that I advise in the insurance space, but I do it with my own practice. If an insurance agent wants to hire me, we get on a demo. I tell them what I do. We talk through that process. They hire me or not. But what I find sometimes is, well, it's Thursday. This is my day to do tech demos. Every Thursday? You just, I mean, how many? You do three a day on Thursdays? Hey, in 8 weeks, you might have been able to see every company in the marketplace if you just did a tech demo every single day. Just do that every day. Because by the time you're done in 60 days, there will be new companies that come on board. Stop trying to keep up with the trends of the next shiny object that's out there. Go with the trusted tools that makes it. And this is coming from somebody who runs AI Rockstars with my friend Landry Fields, who all we do is once a month with a mastermind group talk about AI technology. What you find we tell people over and over is stop changing everything all the time. When you do old school science experiment, you change one thing and you test it, and then you have control.
Mhm.
Same thing with technology in your agency. Stop being someone who buys technology from the trade show floor every single time you go to a trade show. Okay?
Yeah.
The marketing rep is very nice, and I'm sure they have a great happy hour scheduled for the conference, but that doesn't mean you need the next piece of technology. Go with the things that work. Don't look at it in terms of a tech stack, is another way I'd answer that question, Chris. Don't look at a tech stack. Oh, hey, I'm an independent agent in Texas. What's your tech stack? Come on. How about what's your revenue per employee? What's your turnover rate? What's your growth percentage over the last 2 years? Are you opening commercial lines because you're sick of personal lines? How's that going? Those are the things that I think are important, and not what do you have the coolest new trendy tech that everybody wants to have that did the keynote speech at the last
Well, to
conference.
your point as well about the new tech and always changing things, you guys will completely lose your teams. So we see this regularly. We actually spent a week in an agency like last year. Friend of mine asked us to come down, and we were excited to help dial stuff in. And you know what we did? We kicked him out of the room, and we got his staff in one room. Didn't allow the principal agent in, and we asked them,
It's
give
such
us
an
the
important
dirt.
meeting.
We are your
Yeah.
safe place, but we can't help you if we don't know. This is what we heard over and over. This is just another flavor of the month. In a couple
Mm,
days, he'll forget about it, and no, nothing will change, and we'll all go back to doing what we want. Because he was constantly changing, constantly throwing new tools at them. Nothing stuck. There was no implementation. There was no change management process. And these things might sound overwhelming, but to Davey's point, like a bunch of tech all at different times. No, no, no. What is the problem you have in your business? What is the problem? Can tech solve it? Or is it a training problem? And if figure that out. And then if tech can help you find the solution for the problem, that's where you start. You don't start with a bunch of tech demos or this guy in the other agency has this technology. Who cares? You might have a totally different problem than you do. So
mm,
always start with what the issue is and then look for the solution. And I would say, Chris, to your point about lots of tools, do look for things that solve multiple problems, right? If we
mhm.
go back 5 years ago, most of these companies didn't exist. They were brand new, right? I mean, there's tech companies like, Epic and Vertafore that have been around forever, but there's a lot of new companies, and this isn't slowing down either. But those companies, most of them are founded with one problem and they solve one problem. And in today's world, those companies have evolved and they're solving multiple problems. So keep an eye out for that. Be careful of one problem, one solution, because to your point, you'll have a very bloated tech stack
Yep.
that's hard to manage.
Yeah. And so, quick question: do you consider a VA only someone overseas? No. I've seen VAs that are near shore, overseas, in the United States, in United States territories. I think, again, probably the better practice there is to say, hey, anyone that's not going to sit in the office with me, I need to have an intentional way to manage, motivate, and track their time with me. I don't care if
Mhm.
they're in the Philippines or Texas. I've got to engage with them more than I do my live employees and build culture, because you still have to build culture virtually, especially when you don't have them in person.
Yeah. And when you cultivate really good people, guys, remember that there's a lot of people, a lot of other business owners that will want to recruit. So culture is how you keep people that want to work for you. They work for people, right? No, none of us have ever quit a company because of the job. Most of the time, it's usually the boss, right? Toxic work culture. Whenever I interview people, I hear the exact same thing. It's toxic. There's no leadership. The owner was MIA. There was nepotism issues. It's always the people, right? So if you can create
Mm-hmm.
great culture, that's how they stick. And that's what we've developed. Like that's what we've worked on here a lot. And it's why I can hold on to my employees. Because I promise you, if any of you on this call are my customers, some of you have probably offered my employees jobs because it happens every week. So it's one of those things it's not just about the work they deliver, but it's about retaining them as you grow them.
Okay, Carrie asks a softball here.
Mm.
You use the word intentional several times. Please tell us what that means to you. Another synonym for me in intentional is highly proactive. Take a problem. Mariah used a great example. Hey, boss, I have this question. What do I do in this moment? How do I do this workflow? Whatever. She's turning that into an intentional way to squeeze that problem out of the business, knowledge loss. And she's doing that intentionally by recording a video as opposed to reactively just answering the question and moving on. So intentional requires pause and proactivity. Take the fires that keep exploding and start to duct tape the things around them so that they don't explode next time. But you have to take time to do that. So intentional is a combination of proactivity and time. And you try to anticipate. You have to be anticipatory. You have to stop having Groundhog Day style memory. You guys are dealing with the same problems over and over. When are you going to get ahead of them? But Mariah knows it too. Sometimes business owners like to get lost in the busy work because it's easier. I don't know what kind of decision to make on that. You know what? Oh, the phone's ringing. Never mind. That's what Mariah's mentors, coaches, business partners of hers hold her accountable to. That's what I hold people accountable to. Do you want to run your business or be run by your business? That's what being intentional means. Do you stand up at some point, Carrie, and say, hey, I'm working 60, 78 hours a week and I'm not making the money I thought I was going to when I got into this thing. How do I get some time back? That's what being intentional means.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's going to go back to like training the staff that you do have too, to keep customers away from you. And I know people get, all kind of feelings about it when I say that, but what we did in my agency, because I didn't have a massive agency when I started doing all this tech stuff. I just didn't. And I had a couple of employees, we had 5 employees when I sold my agency. And I had to tell my staff, like, if somebody wants to talk to me, because I started working on our systems and our foundations and our processes, and it was learning these things in my business. And I said, if someone wants to talk to me, say, that's fine. I can help you now. Or Mariah's next availability is next Tuesday. Everything I did was by appointment. And it was a huge change. And did some of my customers get irritated? Yes. But you have to do the hard things to do the right things. That's really what I learned through that process. So did I have emails where it was like, I want to talk to you and Ryan wouldn't let me? Yeah, I did. And I forwarded it to Ryan and I let her deal with it because I was working on the structure and the foundations and the technology. And I was coaching and I was hiring and I was marketing and networking. I was doing all these pieces that didn't involve me delivering the product or dealing with this customer who was mad she couldn't meet with me instantly. That's not a realistic expectation in a business. And so our team would say, I can help you now, or I can schedule you a meeting for next week. What do you prefer? They all talked to the team member on the phone. Well, I need help with this now. Great. I can help you now. And as long as you've got good people, your customers aren't going to be mad about that. They're going to get taken care of, but you've got to change. You can't be the one that's going to all the time, or you'll never get out of it. And that's how I got out of it. I spent an entire year building out my CRM, building out my procedures, my operations. I didn't answer a question. I didn't write a policy. I didn't do any of that. My staff was responsible for it. Could I have made more money if I would have kept doing it? Of course I would have made more money, but it was the right thing to do for the business long-term. And that's what I would challenge you guys to think about. So intentional, Davey, when you say that, that's what I'm saying is my understanding of intentional is using your time intentionally for the bigger picture, not just in the moment. That's just reactive.
I think of it from function or design. Okay. When's the last time somebody had Jeff Bezos deliver their Amazon package?
Yeah. That would be cool though.
It would be cool, but it is literally impossible because there are so many packages. It would just be a novelty. He cannot do the work other than ceremonially. Okay. Yeah. The business is too big. When are our clients ready to understand that they can't deliver the packages too? At a restaurant, at a very, very nice restaurant, does the chef bring you the food?
Not even in the bad restaurants.
No.
In the little ones, nobody brings you the food.
A food runner or your server brings you the food. You only speak to the chef if there's something wrong or really good with your food. Mm-hmm. You just can't be everywhere. And every agency owner that answers the phone, does the quote themselves, is Jeff Bezos delivering the packages. They just
great analogy. I love that. So the things we've talked about so far with, remote employees that we're going to call them going forward, I mean, kind of also relates to AI, right? Yeah. I mean, you can't plug in AI without doing all of these things too, being intentional, knowing what you want it to do. What are the differences? Like, where would somebody say this is an AI thing versus like a remote employee thing?
Yeah, the easiest way to kind of summarize that is AI can be a turbo booster. It can be an engine, but you still need a driver, right? The AI tools out there today, for example, slide deck. In preparation for this, we don't need a slide deck, but I just went ahead and generated a slide deck.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that it took me X amount of hours to do one slide deck. I created 20 of them before I liked it. Okay. That's output. It's powered by an AI engine, but there's still a human being doing it. Okay. We are not there, but we do think we'll be there someday. But we are not there to be able to conversationally prompt, AKA talk into what your tool, what you want it to do, and it just does it soup to nuts perfectly all the time, every time as an employee would. We're almost on the trajectory for that, but we're not there yet. So in the meantime, if you think that AI can solve your problems, your interim solution is a VA. And by trying to jump from operator business owner straight into AI, you're going to have some AI slop, some hallucinations, and some things that don't work. So, what I would tell everybody is here's the dirty secret. Just about every virtual assistant that you hire from a firm has somewhere, either on their phone or a second screen, an AI tool that they are using all day, every day to translate your messages, to understand tone, to not come off like a jerk when they respond to you, to look up questions that they don't know the answer to because you didn't train them. Okay. They're using it already to be faster. So if the person making a third of the cost is using a tool to increase their productivity, why have you and your agency not deployed an AI strategy in your small independent bootstrapped agency where nobody has any time? It's got to be something. I'm currently right now in an 8-week course with a local MGA wholesaler here in Kansas City, training their employees, 25 employees, on how to use the only tool that they're allowed to use, which is Microsoft Copilot, because it's in their Microsoft suite. They can't go to ChatGPT or Claude. They're not allowed on their servers. Guess what I spent? I had this whole curriculum for 8 weeks. Guess what I spent the whole first meeting basically doing? Getting them signed in.
Kind of
Don't
basic.
don't talk to me about AI being a solution for your insurance tax if you can't manage an employee either. Because guess what your AI tool does need? Feedback. It needs good instruction and good training and good inputs. If you think that you can just upload a PDF training manual and this thing's going to start cooking for you, I
No.
got some ketchup popsicles I can sell you, and I've got white gloves. So it's just
I
not
can
how
tell you
that
too
works.
that this is not only at small businesses, right, that are
Mhm.
trying these. This is also at large organizations. So again, I go back to my connection at the carrier level.
Mhm.
This was talked about at Indie Travelers Insurance just purchased Claude to use internally. And there are conversations at the executive level of why don't we use Claude for that? Why don't we use Claude for that? Because Claude doesn't do what they're asking. So there
Yeah.
is still this massive gap, regardless of whether you have no employees or you have 5,000 employees. Understanding what AI can do in businesses is still a problem in all
And,
businesses, in all levels. And so, to go
and
back to
can't
that
do.
point of like, what do you
Yeah.
want it to do? What are you going to feed it? You got to have that clarity. You got to understand what's available and where you can plug it into the business. So that takes being intentional, takes some research, takes knowing what your problems are, understanding what your team is going through. And I would just say on the AI side, I would really encourage you guys not to AI away the human experience. I can't tell
Definitely.
you how many people I see and messages I get from agents who want AI to talk to all of their customers on the phone. Do you have any idea what kind of miss that is for cross selling, relationships, referrals, upselling, reviews? You're missing all the good stuff. Look for things to automate on the back end, like Davey said, that today your remote employee might do or a VA that AI might be able to help them with their speed up. But please don't automate away your human interactions. That is the very last thing that should even be considered. It's not the first thing.
Chris says, I try to find things that work best for me and my agency, then I stick with the long term and grow with them as they get better. But just like in the short term, working with Mariah, we already changed from job form to assembly. I feel like as agency owners, we're told to evolve or get left behind. But while I am evolving, something else has changed. LOL. It's quick. And by the way, Chris, here's the quick warning. It ain't going to get any slower anytime soon. That is a
Yeah.
real issue. And so you have to, again, being intentional. You have to
Mhm.
be intentional about finding a way to keep your pulse on things. I'll say some quick hitters as we get close and before I put up my own links too.
Yeah.
AI is just the lever. The virtual assistant that you hire enabled with AI is the one pulling the lever on that machine over and over. Okay. That's number one. And two, the biggest thing that I see as a problem when somebody hires a VA and they don't get it right is instead of delegation, they choose abdication. And what I mean by that is they hand the person the workstation virtually or live and they go, okay, here you go, figure it out. That's not delegating. That is abdicating the throne in which that person was there before. It is not a transition. It will not work. Don't do it. Sorry,
Yeah,
Mark.
no, 100%. Chris, to your point about changing systems too, you guys, I don't know about you, but I see a new tech company multiple every week. I am asked
Ridiculous.
every day to demo and look at and recommend and push all this new technology on you guys. And I've developed some minimums. I don't talk to companies that are less than 2 years old. So to
Mhm.
Chris's point, he mentioned Assembly. Assembly is 2 years old and they have multiple solution points now versus one when they started. I just don't. So start asking them, how old are you? How many agencies have you helped? What results do you have? Interview these guys. Wait, because if they come in, there's likely the fail rate is so high, they're probably not going to be here in 6 months, and you don't want to put your team
Yeah.
through that. So do be careful. But those changes, when you're saying it's moving so fast, you're right. There's a lot going on, but fast doesn't mean good, right? So like, just be careful as you're doing those things. And then Colby has a question. And if you guys have last
Yeah.
minute questions, we're down to our last couple minutes. So please do ask them. Go ahead, Davey, if you want to
Yeah,
read his.
I was just going to say, I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat the two ways for people to get a hold of me, if that's okay with you,
Perfect. Yes,
Mariah.
please do.
So my webpage is very simple to understand. It's not some funky thing. It's just davieholt.com, DAVIEHOLT.com. I have a specific page for insurance professionals. Anybody that wants to talk more, 45 minutes of my time is completely free, and I have a soft spot for independent and insurance agents. The other one that we navigate a lot of this AI through is through our mastermind group called the AI Rockstars. That is specifically built for insurance agents to talk about AI on a regular basis. If either one of those are entry points for you, we would love to hear from you. DM me. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, everywhere. Would love to hear from you. Okay. What established technology? Oh, Colby said, personal question, innovation is great, but what would you tell someone who is comfortable with their lifestyle, when others are constantly preaching, do this or become irrelevant? I would tell you, Colby, you and I have some work to do about what matters to you in your life that has nothing to do with the agency. And I'd be happy to walk you through that because you got to decide for yourself. Uh, is it important to keep up with the Joneses or is it important to have the lifestyle you want? And you probably can't do both. So which one's more important? Because keeping up, you got to kind of be this kind of innovation in business has to be your hobby. You have to like it. And if it's not one of your masterminds or you're not one of your energies, you're just going to be in the hamster wheel your whole career. And by the
Yeah.
way, to Mariah's point, you don't have to get to 10 plus million, 60 million chasing technology. You can do it with human interaction, delegated work, a consistent message, and doing the right things because that stuff comes through in your producers and your salespeople and your business if you do it right as opposed to just chasing it. And then Clark says, what established technology platforms like Assembly are you seeing agencies have success with? I know Joseph very well, and I know Assembly is a great product. There's a lot of great products out there. I would tell you this: my answer to you is every agency does things different, and not because everyone does it wrong. It's just because everything's a different fit. So it might be Assembly, it might be Salt, it might be Risk Advisor, it might be all the different types of technology that's out there. I think what's most important is you have to spend time studying your business and knowing what will and won't work. And that doesn't mean just taking demos every Thursday.
Yeah.
Just to listen. You got to ask yourself, what's good for me? What do I need? Guess what the best, easiest way to do? Get yourself out of the room, get Mariah to have a powwow with your team and figure out the real answers. Listen, if you don't have a culture in your organization where people can deliver you bad news, you're going to build your business based on lies. So ask your team what they want. Ask your team where they're broken. And that's what I help people with all the time is like, you don't even have a feedback loop with your team. You don't have a job description, you don't have an org chart, and you don't ever talk to them about what's going well or not, and you don't provide resources. You're just a glorified salesperson that's really good at selling. Instead of doing demos every week, I would suggest doing training on something you already have every week. Seems like every software is getting better. That's a Chris.
Great advice, Chris.
Great recommendation. Enablement on what you already have. That's great.
Yeah, a lot of times the tool has more features than you're even aware of. On the question too for you, Colby, about lifestyle, I spent most of last year wanting to grow my company. My goal was to grow by 40%, and I was miserable. So you do have to know what you want, right? The keeping up with the Joneses, or like if you don't want to, 100 million premium agency or whatever, that's fine. What I would just encourage you to remember is that every business does have to grow. You do have to grow every year because of just inflation. So you can't stay the same. Then you will not necessarily become irrelevant, but you will end up closing because you won't be able to keep up costs. None of us can stop the inflation in our country and in our world. So as long as you can keep up with that and grow at a reasonable pace, you're fine. But I do have conversations with agents who think that they just can maintain and that they'll stay in business for the next 20 years. And that is completely false. So just an extra piece on that. Davey, say again how people can reach you.
Yeah, I'm realizing I put my links the first time in the host and panelist.
I just saw that too.
Two ways to get a hold of me or do business with us. The easiest way is AI Rockstars. It is a monthly mastermind group of insurance agency owners hosted by myself and Landry Fields. There's a start now page. It's a paywall. Once a month, we just talk about AI. It's like a mastermind group. We already have nearly 30 members. It's a really fun time. Once a month, we talk about AI. We went live last night, a handful of us, and we were talking about Claude code and all kinds of fun stuff there. So we encourage you guys to do that. Second of all, if you want to hire me directly or just try to figure me out and figure out if I would be a fit for you as it relates to implementing artificial intelligence, virtual assistants, or any other piece of your insurance business. Like I said, I've been in the industry 10 years and I've seen everything from the big shop to the Main Street agency. And I would have a soft spot for insurance agents. If I'm somebody that you'd like to help as your business coach or your strategist or your consultant, I do that in a bunch of different ways. And I'd love to hear from you, but the DMs are free. The emails are free. Would love to help. I just try to make the industry better every day.
Hit him up now, because the longer that lasts, he'll have a different policy around DMs. Trust me.
Amen.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Davey, for all the information. We will repost this on our YouTube channel if you want to share it with anybody that missed the call or you want to review any of this amazing advice. Thank you all again.
Thanks, Mariah.